From the So King Newsroom, here's your weekly local news recap. I'm Stephen Vierre. The King County Prosecutor's Office reports that on October 14th, Leland Russell Jr. of Burien was sentenced to 63 years in prison for the fatal shooting of two employees of a Shell gas station in Kent on August 20th of 2014. Russell, 32, was convicted by a jury last August on 2 counts of murder in the first degree, with firearm enhancements for the murders of gas station employees David Christensen and Carlos Gonzalez. Prosecutors say that Russell and another man arrived at the busy gas station during the morning commute and started arguments with several customers who were attempting to use the business's services. Witnesses said the defendant and his friend were rude and combative toward customers and station employees before they were told by the victims to leave. After the defendant's friend started to physically assault one of the victims, Russell retrieved his gun from his vehicle and shot the 2 unarmed employees multiple times at close range. The jury also convicted Russell on a charge of assault in the second degree in a separate incident that occurred earlier on the day of the service station shooting. Details at btownblog.com. Whether or not to audio record committee meetings and the posting of associated meeting dates were debated at the SeaTac City Council during their October 11th session. SeaTac's Mayor, Michael Siefkes, wants the meeting schedule and the recordings to be available to the public from the city's website. After further discussion, city staff suggested splitting the audio recording and meeting schedule issues into 2 separate resolutions instead of just one for consideration at a later date. Mayor Siefkes said, "I am not really a fan of recording because it limits our ability to ask stupid things, because a year down the road you can pull up the recording and say, 'Here you sound like an idiot when you ask this question.' So I don't agree with the recording part personally at all." Councilmember Rick Forschler holds the opposite view, saying recording is a good idea. According to Forschler, people can come and record a meeting at any time, they can take it out of context, they can do anything they want with it. We have no control over what somebody does with a recording. If we record the meeting, then we can show what occurred in context. The council decided to delay any further discussions on the matters until its next meeting. Assistant City Attorney Julia Yoon presented a proposal for city legislation to hold people responsible when chronic nuisance activities occur on their property. There are existing laws on the subject of public nuisance, but this proposal would cover private property problems. Yoon says other South King County cities already have such ordinances. Yoon states in her proposal that some property owners and/or persons in charge of a property continue to allow their properties to be a nuisance to the community. They fail to take any affirmative actions to stop or prevent repeated criminal activities occurring on their property. Councilmember Peter Kwan said much of the need for the ordinance is to stem repetitive public safety problems. The proposed ordinance would provide the city with administrative and judicial remedies to clamp down on such problems. The maximum fine that could be imposed by a court is $25,000. The council will consider final adoption of the ordinance at the next council session. Details at SeaTacBlog.com. The Burien City Council will review and perhaps approve new city branding, including a new logo for the city, at its October 24th study session. As we previously reported, the city has contracted with J-Ray, a creative agency located in Tacoma. The city is paying some $93,000, with optional products and services up to more than $149,000 for the rebranding. This initiative is one of 5 priority economic development goals and actions the City Council has set for 2015 and 2016. At the September 26th study session, J-Ray presented 2 possible new city logos for council consideration. The City Council provided direction as to their preferred logo and asked that the logo be brought back to the council for another look after incorporation of the council's requested revisions. The council's October 24th meeting may well see approval of the revised design, which is built around the letter B and shows the corner of the City Hall and Library, a silhouette of Mount Rainier, trees, a bird in the sky, and water that probably represents Puget Sound. Tied in with the logo will be the slogan, "Room for Life." You can view the new logo and even declare your opinion of it in our unscientific poll at btownblog.com.
Hey everyone, well, as it's October, we're seeing a little bit of a transitional period as we go between some pretty intense weather fronts and some more mild weather. So we're seeing chance of rain showers continuing through the weekend, but then we also see partly sunny skies, mild temperatures in the mid to upper 50s as well. This continues into the middle of next week. We go back and forth between this rainy and sunny weather. Thank you for listening. I'm Chris Gregg, your Puget Sound Weather Geek.
Time now for The Mayne Problem, commentary from senior writer Jack Mayne.
It is time the Port of Seattle and other governmental agencies begin the search for a new international airport. Private residences have engulfed the present area, and those people are angry at the increasing noise from aircraft at all times of the day and night. Originally, the Port of Seattle chose a rural tract of scrubland at Bow Lake during World War II. But full use didn't begin until the dedication of a modern terminal building in 1949. Local residents began complaining of noise as far back as the 1970s and escalated when a third runway was proposed. Millions have been spent to soundproof homes, schools, and businesses before, during, and after the third runway construction. Many complained the soundproofing was and still is inadequate. Recently, the port said SeaTac is the fastest growing amongst the top U.S. airports, serving more than 42 million passengers in 2015. But by 2034, forecasts project SeaTac will reach 66 million passengers. The outlook for residents was made even worse when the Federal Aviation Agency recently ordered a vast increase in air traffic to turn over Burien and Des Moines after takeoff. Burien residents formed an anti-noise group called Quiet Skies, primarily to get the FAA to moderate its takeoff patterns because of the horrendous new bombardment of noise. But let's face it, you are going to hear airplane noise when you live next to an airport. If the port's prediction about the huge growth in the next 18 years is correct, and we think they are right, the only realistic answer is a new airport someplace else. Payne Field, located in unincorporated Snohomish County, is one site often mentioned, but people there have long opposed expanding the facility now used for a few commercial flights and a parking lot for partly built Boeing jetliners. Some have suggested an airport site even further north at Arlington. Others think there will be possibility of decommissioning Joint Base Lewis McChord, and that could become a new airport site. A study is urgently needed, and it needs to be done now, not when the sound of airplanes so overwhelms the South King County area that people begin to move away and newcomers decide to live anywhere else as long as it's not near an airport.
In the final take, it was recently reported in the B-Town blog that the Pit Stop Bottle Shop and Pub, a business located on Southwest 153rd Street in Burien, was closing. Their final day of business was originally set for Sunday, October 16th. However, we're happy to report that the business owners have reconsidered. You see, once news of the impending closure got out, many Burien locals and past customers voiced their disapproval. The good news is that the home of Burien, that's B-E-R-I-E-N, will be staying open, and that's good news. In an announcement on the business's Facebook page, the owners write, "The feeling of community that has surrounded us since we announced our closing has been humbling, heartwarming, and overwhelming all at once. Feeling the love and support from all of our guests has made us rethink if this was a good idea for us to close or not. After much consideration, we have decided to not give up yet. We are going to stay open, but with some changes. We will not be opening until 3 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, and we'll be paring down our cooler selection. We feel if we make these and a few other small changes, with your continued support, we can make this happen. Pit Stop Bottle Shop and Pub, we love your spirit and determination. May the great business fairy tap you with her magic wand of profitability and success." Stephen Vier, So King, Internet Radio News.
So King News was created based on a generous grant from JLab's Encore Media Entrepreneurs Program, supported with funding from the Ethics and Excellence in Journalism Foundation and the Nicholas B. Ottaway Foundation.